So, question to you: What was it? What was it like for you to one be on set without me, which I'm sure was devastating, and to be in that producer role and not have me in that producer role with you?
Well, being on set
it's all about me.
It is, yes, is what we've discovered here. Being on set was great, except for the fact that I got the flu, I think near the end of day one or something.
There seems to be a pattern you are having with multiple sets now. You need to really stop that.
It's ridiculous. So I think I missed a day of shooting, or a half day of shooting, or something. I forget exactly. It was a long time ago, but it was fine. I mean, the great thing about it was that there were enough people there, and everybody was so amazing that like it ran really smoothly. And I mean, we're in one studio location, so it wasn't like we were going to deal with company moves or anything. It was very straightforward. Like, you show up at the studio, we shoot in the studio, and then we leave the studio. So it was not complicated in the logistical regard. So, but no, it went, as far as I was concerned, it went pretty damn smooth, yeah.
What did you think of the post-process, since you were not as involved, but being on kind of the other side?
Oh, it's great, not having to be in... No, it was really interesting because being an editor, like every time I would look at you editing, I instinctively wanted to just like jump in and start futzing with stuff, just because that's what I spend a lot of my time doing. So it was like having to pull myself away from that a little bit was interesting. But basically, the role that I ended up taking in post was just sort of like trying to corral and organize and make sure that we were staying on deadlines and stuff like that, which of course has failed miserably. But that's post production. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but even in pre-production, that's really. I mean, Wonder had like a very clear, crystalline vision, and she knew how to get it, and she knew who to hire. So really, it was just. I feel like I just acted more as like a support system. If things came up, or like how, interpreting like a creative idea into a technical one and stuff like that. Yeah.
What drew you to the project?
When Wonder asks you to do something, you do it. I mean, frankly, that was a large part of it. Like, it just seemed like such a cool idea, such a great visual style. I mean, I really enjoy all of the actresses that are involved with it. I love working with Ty. Like, it was a no-brainer. I mean, why would you say no to that? Yeah.
What were some of like your maybe like an aha moment that you had, or something that you learned through this process? What was your revelation?
Oh my god. Jeez. I don't know. Dead air. God, that's a really good question. I would honestly, I'd have to think about that and come back.
What other questions do you want?
God, that's really good. Man. Well, actually, I do have something.
Okay.
So there was a moment that in one of the vignettes that we were sort of struggling with, like, the actual capturing of it on in the studio. Like, it was just one of those things, like, because I was basically, because everything was running so smoothly, I was basically just acting as like like a second AC and occasional grip work, that kind of thing. So I was talking to Ty, and he was like, "Man, there's something about this sequence. It's hard to talk about it in like scenes or whatever, because we basically just film each vignette in its totality. So there's like a part of it that we're just like, man, it's not working, like blah blah blah, just nothing that we were doing, and like Ty was running out of sort of like creative ideas for how to spice it up, or like how to inject some like energy or something into it, and he and I were talking, and Wonder just like came over, whispered something to the actress, walked away, and then the next take was like brilliant. Like, everything that we needed was in it, and the aha moment there was that, because my head was immediately going to like, well, okay, how do we reframe this? How do we shoot it from a different angle? Like, how do we restage it or block it or whatever to get something different out of it? And Ty was thinking like, well, what do we do with the camera, since he was the DP? But really what it came down to is like, when the performance was there, the scene works. And that was just, it's just one of those things that it's I guess it's easy to forget, because I guess I would liken it to editing. When you're editing a project, continuity is the easiest thing to get obsessed about, because it's simple. You're like, okay, well, I can cut on this frame and then I have continuity and whatever, but really if the scene's not working, it's not working because of emotion. And the same thing happens on set too, and since I love gear and I love getting obsessed with gear, it's easy to always go there first, and the fact that it was just a performance, and once we got that done, worked. Sorry, I thought Corsair got stuck in my head.
Any other questions?
I don't think I was thinking of, is there anything that made this project, how was it different working with like an avant-garde or like non-linear work versus a real strong narrative? If that even played in, I don't know, but just curious.
Definitely.
Yeah, what was it like for you working on a very experimental avant-garde piece?
It was really, I think like you with editing, it was really freeing. I mean, great that I wasn't making any creative decisions, but it was getting to see people play in that space and being there to, like, assist in making that happen totally made me think of the way that I would ask questions was totally different, because it wasn't adhering to a specific narrative or like the basics of like, well, it's a dialogue scene, so we need to have these elements in place to make that happen. Like, none of that was present. So when we were, because I was present for some rehearsals and we were doing like meeting with production designers or the makeup people, or having meetings with Ty trying to figure out the visual style, being able to think outside of how I normally think was, it was remarkably freeing and really wonderful. I hope that some of that can trickle into work that we do. Although I have no strong desire to do like an entirely experimental piece, but I think it's like runway fashion, you're never going to see the dress on the runway in an actual store, but like little bits of that dress or like ideas from that you'll find, and so I hope I can carry that some of that freedom into